we took a hard look at how to best decarbonize construction and buildings, and we came up with a theory of change that we follow quite closely.
Hello, hi everyone. Today I'm here with Santiago. Oh, seatbelt.
Seatbelt's important. I got mine.
Yeah. Today I'm here with Santiago Ossa. Is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Okay, great. And he does VC
It's
in
funny.
construction tech.
It's interesting. It's almost a trick question.
Okay.
I do work at a company that has ventures in the name. We're not quite a VC though.
Okay.
We do venture building. So what we do is, instead of making investments in a portfolio of companies, we partner with founders as well as corporate partners to identify gaps in the market. And either we work with a founding team, say entrepreneurs, or with a corporate partner and their innovation team to create something new in that space. So we're not a typical VC, we're not a venture capitalist, so we don't cut out checks. We don't make financial investments. We instead make, if you would, sweat equity investments. We dedicate our time to helping grow something from the start.
Oh, so the company would have raised their money already and you just partner with them?
Normally, we partner with them well before they raise money. So much earlier stage, the risk is much higher. And we agree with their opportunity they have found, but they need a lot of coaching, a lot of preparing their pitch deck, understanding, really embracing and wrapping their heads around the market opportunity and the go-to-market strategy. And we have the benefit of having a strong network of existing corporate partners, government agencies, academic institutions. So there's a benefit for them in partnering with us to really accelerate their growth. But yeah, normally companies that we partner with have not raised venture capital money. They're earlier stage than that.
And they're mostly construction.
I am focused in the construction space, yes. We focus on 3 key legacy sectors that account for more than 65% of carbon emissions. And those are transportation, energy, and construction. So we target those 3 sectors. I personally work in the building space, which is quite fascinating because we took a hard look at how to best decarbonize construction and buildings. And we came up with a theory of change that we follow quite closely. And it revolves around industrialized construction. So the reduction in material use, the overall efficiency of buildings, those things can be optimized the moment you start standardizing a lot of the designs, a lot of the processes, and when you start really using manufacturing to create our buildings, which right now doesn't happen because right now most people just build on site. So they bring sticks to the site and then they build with those sticks. It's an interesting space.
I've not had anyone talk about it before, so I don't know. How did you get into it?
You know, growing up, I was always very curious about the natural environment. I like to go outside a lot. I'm from Colombia. Like to be in the mountains a lot. And I always had this affinity towards natural ecosystems. And so I was always curious about how we could blend the built environment with those natural ecosystems. So my undergrad was in environmental engineering. And I worked a lot on in natural systems. I spent a few years working in remediation, which is cleaning up contaminated sites, preventing exposure of hazardous things to human populations or animals. And in that process, I worked in the Bay Area. I worked in ground-up construction. And so I was the environmental engineering team member of the broader construction team. That's how I got into construction, and I came to Stanford, took some classes. The program was Sustainable Design and Construction. And I was introduced to industrialized construction and it clicked. It makes a lot of sense. So that's how I ended up here.
That is so
I did a lot of entrepreneurship things as well. That's how you and I first connected. So it's kind of the hybrid of the few different things that have piqued my interest in the last 10, 15 years, and kind of this is where I've gotten to.
That is really awesome.
What about you?
What about me?
Yes.
What's the question?
What do you like dedicating your time to, and what's the field that most interests you right now?
Making videos for sure.
Love that.
And I'm interested in the future of work broadly. And researching what that would look like and how AI is having an impact on it, and how we can educate the current workforce for what is to come.
Future workforce, wow. And does that entail all kinds of work? Field work, office work, services work?
I am focusing on tech work, like software engineering and like, because work is huge.
So will AI get rid of all of our jobs in tech?
No, I feel like it will just continue to evolve. The skill sets needed at every given time will continue to shift. And that is what is happening. So what I'm trying to look at is how are the skills likely to change in like 5 years, for example, and how can people prepare themselves for that change? We already know that it's going to be ever changing, and whatever we find might not be like guaranteed, but it is a step in like preparing people for what is to come. So like, can we know what skills will be automated or are likely to be automated? What is something that software engineers do that is currently very repetitive that they feel like, oh, in 5 years,
it's not going to be needed.
Yeah. So things like that is what I'm working on.
That's interesting. I'm very curious because it seems like a lot of the jobs that will be needed in the future just don't exist currently.
Yeah.
And so how do you prepare for that?
Those are questions I'm trying to answer. What do you have to say? Do you have any?
No, but it is very interesting, right? Especially in the last couple of years. It's an interesting question. There's a lot of interest, but also concern about AI and what, is AI going to take over and all these things. And I've really found, I wouldn't say comfort, but the way I've been approaching this whole thing is it's just another tool.
Yeah.
Just another tool. And it's similar, my grandmother, for example, her early career was an architect. Mm-hmm. But if she were to do what an architect does today, it's completely different, right?
Yeah.
The role of architecture still
different
stands.
tools.
But in her time, architects, or drafters, I should say, helped bring the vision to life. And it was all sitting down and just pen with paper and doing designs and doing drawings and repeating drawings and changing one slight thing and doing it all over again. And now, over time, that has all become digital, and which means that you no longer have to spend hours doing the same sketch.
Yeah.
You can do it in seconds, but it doesn't mean the architect isn't necessary.
Yeah.
Right? However, had I asked her, how can you prepare to be an architect in 50 years, she would have never imagined how to prepare for that, right?
Yeah. And that's also an important thing that I'm trying to look at. Like, what are those foundational skills that would not change regardless of the tool? Like architecture, there's some foundational knowledge of like knowing how to measure maybe different kinds of buildings or things like that. But maybe the tool you use to measure doesn't change, but like what are those foundational
What's
things?
the foundation? My first thought is something that's very foundational. It's human nature, is kind of human connection.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because at the same time, OpenAI recently released that report saying, hey, it seems like people are developing relationship and developing attachment to the voice in our OpenAI chatbot, right? And so that connection, we've experienced human to human connection. We've experienced human to pet connection.
Yeah.
Over time, we've developed connection to these different things, and now to this new tool.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if human connection could also be that basis anymore. An interesting thing for sure.
Yeah. There is human connection. There is prompt engineering for sure.
Those are skill, yeah, for sure. I mean, you need to be able to prompt a computer to help you do what you need to do. For computers, you needed to know how to use a keyboard. Otherwise, you can't use the machine, right?
Yeah.
Which I remember, growing up, there were classes on just how to use the keyboard.
Yeah, how to type fast.
Yeah. Did you have those too?
Yeah. I didn't take them seriously, but I wish I did. Now I still type with like only 2 fingers on both hands.
Do you still look at the keyboard while you type?
Sometimes.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. So I'm very curious about your interest in making videos. How did this start?
Interesting question. Okay. This actually started back in 2019. I created something called Diverse. Initially, it was just a YouTube channel where I just wanted to put out everything that I was interested in. I like to dance. I like to tell stories. I started doing random stuff. But over time, I started to talk about tech and, tech careers because I got a lot of questions about it. And like, it just like became its own thing. And I would talk more about tech careers. And that was how I founded my first company called Diverse. And the origin of that company was dancing on YouTube.
I love that. Do you still like to dance?
I
do. Is that still part of your life? Yeah.
Yeah, but not like as a thing. But yeah, I still like to dance. So that was how it happened, and I basically started creating content around tech careers, and I also started Diverse podcast, which is a podcast where I spoke to people in tech about how they navigated their tech careers to help people navigate their tech careers. Okay. And I also decided to start my own personal thing on the side over time when I realized that, I don't just want to talk about tech. I still like to talk about everything else. And yeah, that was how
So does Diverse K still operate?
I'm in the process of dissolving the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was your journey through that?
A lot of learning for sure. It was bootstrapped.
Okay.
And it was like my first hit at serious entrepreneurship. Like we were building a company. I raised angel money. I had a team. It was great. Mm-hmm. And that was what motivated me to even come to Stanford in the first place.
That's awesome.
Yeah. To actually do some research that would move the company forward. But upon getting here, I just really thought about what it was that I wanted for my career. But dissolving a company is stressful.
I can imagine. I've never had to do that. But I have many friends who have, and kind of supporting them in the process, and especially if it's your baby, right?
Yeah.
You dedicated so much time and effort.
Yeah. It's like it took me over a year to come to terms with the fact that, okay, we're closing
this is going to come down. Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, we're in the process, and even the process itself.
Not an easy process to let go of a company.
Yeah. Did you found this company? What's the name of the company?
ADL Ventures.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a founder of this company. This is a company that was started about 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. What's really interesting about this is the business model was inspired by the Fraunhofer model.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with
No.
So Fraunhofer Center or the Fraunhofer Institute is an energy research engine that was started in Germany with support from the German government. And they essentially said, look, we need to innovate in our energy space.
Yeah.
We want to incentivize research, like R&D development, leading edge things, but we don't want it to sit in a lab somewhere, somebody to write a report, and it never go beyond academia, which tends to happen in a lot of research.
Yeah.
So they said, we're going to fund a lot of research in energy with the condition that it's supported directly by industry.
Okay.
So industry was required to also put some of their money and have some skin in the game.
Okay.
And it was wildly successful. There's now Fraunhofer centers across the world in different countries, all modeled behind this. And the founder of ADL Ventures started the Fraunhofer Center at MIT.
Okay.
So he had experience doing that, supported a lot of successful ventures in the energy space.
Yeah.
And then he used that same business model to start ADL Ventures. And that's why we're a venture builder. But what we do is we think VC money has a space in growing companies.
Yeah.
It's not the best funding mechanism for a lot of startups.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes is
that was a hard realization for me.
And especially when you look at startups in these legacy sectors that I was telling you about, energy, transportation, construction. These are companies that normally take a long time to grow. They can become very big, but they are unlikely to deliver the same, 10x results in 7 years or 10 years that technology startups tend to provide their investors. So when you have a construction technology company, unless it's pure software, let's say, assume there's some hard tech to it, competing in the same portfolio, VC portfolio with other companies, say an app, normally they won't make it. Yeah. Normally the investors will say, you're not showing the same growth that the rest of my portfolio is showing, and they'll get defunded. Yeah. So our theory of change there is, look, we understand that to grow change makers in these legacy sectors, we need to have more patient capital. Yeah. We need to have buy-in from the government. Yeah. And we need to leverage government money to de-risk those initial stages. Yeah. So the way we de-risk those is, one, by bringing non-dilutive funding, so the entrepreneurs don't get diluted through targeted programs that the government puts out. We help them get some of that funding. Yeah. But also we connect them to direct corporate partners so that whatever it is they're developing, they know that there is a need for it directly from X or Y corporate partner. Normally what that means is, if the R&D is successful, that corporate partner will immediately buy them out. And that's an exit strategy. So it's an interesting model, not like VC, but we think it's more relevant for these change-making companies in hard to abate sectors that are very ingrained, they're very big, and they have a lot of incumbents in place.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What's the most exciting part of your job?
Ooh, good question. I think what I really enjoy about my job, there's many things I enjoy. Yeah. Something that I really value a lot is the ability and the need, really, to be jumping back and forth between stakeholders all the time. We don't deal just with startups. We don't deal just with corporate partners. We don't deal just with government agencies. we have to be in the loop of all of them at the same time. In fact, just this morning, I had 4 phone calls with government agency in Texas, startups in New York, corporate partners in the Northeast, and really playing in all 3 fields at once is something I like a lot about my job. I also, in my particular role, I get to do a lot of team management and helping people identify kind of what's exciting to them, how the work they're doing right now fits into their longer term vision. We're a small company. The team is 18 people, fluctuates by a few people here and there. So it's very intimate and you have to wear many hats.
And that's the exciting part. You don't wake up every day and do the same thing on repeat.
Correct. Correct. Always a lot of work, right? And something I struggle with is to really prioritize and acknowledge that not everything is going to get done. And being selective on what doesn't get done as opposed to just letting time decide. Have you started classes yet? The quarter hasn't started.
No, I think 22nd of September. That's when the new academic year is gonna.
But you stayed in during the summer. So what have you been up to?
I launched this series and I've been doing research on the future of work, basically. A huge part of it involves me interviewing AI engineering managers and current AI software engineers. I'm just in the process of doing those interviews, and I also recently got the IRB approval to carry out the research. It's like Stanford's approval of, go ahead and do this.
You're not going to hurt humans in the process.
So that's what I've been doing.
That's great. The future of work, that's something that I've been very interested about, but also for me, it's a little bit more narrowed. What does the future workplace look like? And that's a question that we were challenged with a couple of times during my time at Stanford in different classes. You know, for a long time, offices didn't need computers. They didn't need servers. The next generation of buildings all of a sudden had to have server rooms. Server rooms are now obsolete. And that's just like a silly example, but right now we use computers, we use laptops. Now we've kind of veered away from designing offices that are static. Because you can plug in your laptop anywhere. You take it from here, it's not a desktop where you're sitting in the same place the entire time, you can't move. What's the equivalent of that in 10, 15, 20 years, right? And it's really hard to predict. There's some leads, right? We do think the work is going to be more and more hybrid. You have not just your laptop, but you have VR headsets that may or may not become more relevant. So, you know, do you design a desk, or at that point do you design an empty space or a very comfortable chair? So it's really interesting to think about the future of workspace in that regard. Another way is the future of the workplace in the actual construction activities. Is the future construction site one where there's only one person managing 20 robots? Or is it one where there's still a lot of humans doing the actual work, but aided by smart glasses or things like that? So I would love to see what comes out of your research and what some of the takeaways could be. That is very
particular.
It's very narrow and kind of niche in the construction space. But I'm sure a lot of the outcomes, kind of bigger insights that you draw from your research
might influence it.
Definitely influence it and help inform it. So I'm curious, what has been one of the most memorable or interesting drive ride conversations that you've had so far?
Honestly, all of them are unique in their own way. I feel like everybody just has such an interesting story to tell. And I like that I get to talk with people with different backgrounds, working in different industries. And it's all very, very interesting in their own way.
And you're doing a great job of just reaching out to people who have very different backgrounds and experiences.
That's the idea. The idea is to show people that there are different careers you could get into, and there are different possibilities, and people have taken different paths. And there's career trajectories. It's not just one, right? You can always change, and most likely it will change. The first part of my career, I spent a lot of time managing field crews out at the job sites. And I mentioned earlier that I love being outdoors. I love going to the mountains, the deserts, the oceans. And so I happened to be the most excited person on my team whenever we got a project that was really remote. They're like, we need to go. A lot of the cleanup work we did ended up being for government agencies that had some, secret research happening, and it wasn't disclosed until 15 years later, and then you come to realize, oh wow, they left a mess. And so these are, locations out in the desert or up in the Sierras,
And it would require someone like me to go out there with a team of 8 to 12 people and live there for 3-4 months at a time.
Wow.
Many times we're living in camp trailers, and I loved that. And it was really fun. I spent a good chunk of time in my earlier career doing that. Very different from the work I do now.
Yeah.
But still very valuable.
Yeah, that's fun. I've not done that before, but it's something I want to do. Do you know how to cook? Because you have to cook for yourself in all of this remote.
I do know how to cook. Up until recently, I wasn't really following recipes. I'm more of an experimental cook.
Okay.
So whatever I have at hand, I'll make up something with it. I will also caveat that I'm a very easy eater. I'll eat anything.
Yeah.
And I tend to like everything. So my partner, for example, she loves like good quality food. And when I cook, it's a 50-50. It's a 50% chance that it'll be delicious, 50% chance that it'll be just food.
Yeah.
And so she loved to lead me in the cooking because she has big visions.
Yeah.
Another really cool thing, I live in a co-op.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I love shared living. And for me, living communally just makes a lot of sense. I think it makes us better humans. And I can go deep into this. This is kind of a personal passion of mine. It helps us develop a lot of the communication skills that we oftentimes don't practice when we're living alone. But all of this to say, one aspect of our shared living is shared cooking. So I cook once a week for 9 people, plus friends and family. So normally we have a group of 10 to 15 on any given day of the week.
Yeah.
So I've learned to cook for bigger groups. And it's cool because I get to cook once a week, but I get delicious meals every day of the week, just actually to show up to the house. So I do enjoy cooking. And I think part of it is that I get to cook for other people. If I was cooking for myself, it would be very simple all the time.
Yeah. That's so much fun.
Do you like to cook?
I like to, but time has not made it very convenient too. So
Finding the time to cook is not always easy.
Yeah, I've not cooked as much as I would love to.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yay.
Thanks for the ride.
Yeah, you're welcome. Tell us about working in a workspace.
This is where we get to come.
WeWork.
It's the WeWork in Palo Alto. It's a really good space. We'll show you around a little bit. So here we are going in.
Yeah.
I normally come work here most days. It's really cool. You get to jump around between the different WeWork offices.
Yeah. Oh, if you have one membership, you can work anywhere?
Yes, it's fantastic.
Okay. Is it paid for all of your team, or do you just personally like working in a workspace?
We do get it for the team. My company is based out of Boston.
Okay.
And so a lot of us work hybrid or remote.
Yeah.
And so we get access to the WeWork as a good, good space for us to work. So
yeah.
But yeah, this is it. Maybe we grab a seat somewhere here. So I'm curious, what would be the ideal kind of result with all these videos? Where would you like this to go?
Definitely to reach a lot of people and making their career decisions easier.
For career decisions.
Yeah.
That's cool. Just showcasing what can be possible, how different people approach it.
And maybe some opportunities that people have taken that are not that popular, but if they know about it, they might be fit for, and it could help them.
Totally. I remember first summer during my undergrad, I wanted to do an internship, but I really, really, really wanted to do something outside. And I remember a funny experience. I went to the career counselor and I said, hey, I want to apply to this job.
Yeah.
It was planting trees in Canada. And so, this career counselor was used to helping people craft their resumes for an internship at a, big tech or private equity or bank. And one of the requirements in the job description said, can you operate motorized vehicles like a quad or a motorcycle?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I can. But when she looked at it, she's like, what am I helping you write this thing for?
Yeah.
I did not end up being able to do that because of immigration things. I didn't have the right work permit for Canada.
Yeah.
But I did spend that summer working as a park ranger in Colombia. Mm-hmm. And it paid very poorly, but it's one of the best jobs I've ever had. And the memories and teachings it gave me have helped me in every other job since. Yeah. And I remember coming back from that summer and just sharing with some friends back in my university, I spent my summer doing this. And some people would kind of be a little bit judgmental, right? Like, you spent your summer doing what? Yeah. And you didn't get paid that much for that? Like, why would you ever do that? And it was really interesting for me to have a self-reflection of, they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
I got so much out of it. Like, for me, it was way more, worth a lot more than whatever somebody else would have paid me. And I say this because if you ask me to connect the dots between being a park ranger and working, in construction technology, venture building, I wouldn't know how to connect those dots. But they do connect.
Somehow they do.
They do connect.
It could just be something around, I don't know what it is that you did there, maybe using a shovel or something that just like, oh, I could actually apply this to this and like.
Yes, but more than specific like knowledge, it's also the endurance, the character that it builds.
Yeah.
Having to be resourceful. Like I was out in the middle of nowhere. I only had the chance to communicate once per day if I needed support or assistance. And you become very tactful with communications. So it's well beyond the physical, okay, I learned how to dig a hole with a shovel and how that translates to construction, but more how it helped build my character, my perception of life, exposed me to completely different lifestyles with my neighbors at the time.
Yeah.
So connect all the dots you can.
Yeah, it just reminds me, like, it doesn't have to be, like you said, definitely the tolerance, the endurance. My dad has this factory, and in the initial days, there's a lot of hard labor involved, and like we just had to like do a lot of physical things. In the middle of nowhere, there was no internet. The internet is terrible, and you're just forced to just do this thing that you have to do and endure through the day, and like
you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
If you look back, what are some of the things that you have done in your academic or professional career that would feel a little weird to like connect the dots?
To connect the dots. Oh.
There's something good here.
Okay. A product of that factory I'm talking about, besides like us being involved in the processing and all, is this finished product called gari, and it's from cassava, and a lot of Nigerians take it. So it's like.
Is it a food product?
Yeah.
Like, consumables?
Yeah. And at the time I was in college also. So I took it upon myself to sell. To sell those bags. And in college I was known as the gari seller.
So you take it to school.
I would take it to school.
I love that.
And I'll try to sell it to my professors, to fellow students, and to like all the stores on campus. Like I'll go and pitch it to them. And like sometimes I'll just drop some with them. Oh, they should study. And when they
sell it,
it taught me a lot about sales. And it's not like directly connected to building a tech company or being
but there's a lot of things that you learned in that process.
Yeah.
You just helped me remember. I would say one of my first kind of endeavors in entrepreneurship, if you can call it that, was in middle school and high school. I enjoyed really just getting I was born and raised in Bogota, which is a giant city, 8 million plus people. And I really liked knowing, just going to different parts of the city and exploring. And I would oftentimes go into flea markets in further away parts of the city where I would find little hand games that were really fun that I knew my friends and the people in my school had never seen.
Yeah.
And for a little while I would bring them to school in my backpack and I would sell them. I would resell them. And for them it was like, a very interesting new thing they'd never played with. And I enjoyed that quite a bit. It didn't last for too long, but I can relate to bringing things to school and selling them.
Yeah, and in the moment you might not know how it's going to influence you, but I love things.
Yeah. I did have friends, there was the friend who brought sandwiches to sell at school. My sister brought desserts for a while. Just gotta hustle. Get some things done.
Yeah. Okay, let's go and get that drink you were talking about.
Let's get some drink. You get some kombucha or coffee. Let's go.
So we're going to get... I don't think I've tried kombucha before.
Oh, no?
Maybe I have, but I'm just not familiar.
This is the WeWork kombucha. It's quite sweet, but we can try it. So there's some cups here, and then you have seltzer, tea, kombucha, and cold coffee on tap. So
make something for me.
This is my favorite. Okay. Well, this is what I tend to do. So I get some kombucha.
Yeah.
Which is nice and bubbly, and then I put a little bit of hibiscus tea in it.
Yeah.
So let me know if you like that. Yeah, I'll make one for myself too.
Is it alcoholic?
No, not alcoholic, but it is carbonated, so it feels bubbly. Yeah.
I like it.
Kombucha. Kombucha is something. Cheers.
You were saying something about kombucha.
Kombucha is something that I hadn't tried until I came to the US, and then I learned how to make it. And it's quite a fun, thing to do at home.
What's it made out of?
Essentially, you just do green and black tea, and you add sugar to it, so it's sweetened tea, and then you let it ferment a little bit. But that fermentation process happens because you feed it what's called SCOBY. I forget what it's an acronym, it stands for something, but it's like a symbiotic culture of yeast and bacteria, or bacteria and yeast.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what starts fermentation. Yeah. And essentially what it does is it eats all of the sugars and it converts it into other things, and it creates kombucha, something you do at home. It's the base of it is tea. Sweet tea.
Yeah, I should try it. And we should check the time. You say you have a meeting.
Yes, I do. I need to probably cut it off in 5 minutes or so.
Okay, but this was very fun. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun. See you all. Bye.